Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Skip Mason,
pastor, preacher, historian, author,
teacher, librarian, archivist, world traveler,
collector, family historian, avid reader, and creator of the popular Vanishing Black Atlanta Facebook page.
But a lot of folks who love history.
Most importantly, he's our dad who loves his family and who taught us the importance of our history and having important conversations.
Join him now for this episode of Conversations with Dr. Skip.
Well, good Sunday afternoon, my brothers and sisters across our beloved Zion. I am Skip Mason. I'm so delighted to welcome you to another conversation as we celebrate the CME Church 150th anniversary. And I'm delighted today that we have some more of our general officers who will be sharing with us for the next hour or so. And delighted that they have come to be with us today, and you will get a chance to hear about them, the work that they do, and their journey to the office that they hold. As we learned last week, the work of our general officers, the general departments are very much a part of the fiber and fabric of this church to keep us operating. And so we're grateful for all that they do. Let me acknowledge our senior bishop, Lawrence L. Reddick III, and Mrs. Wendy Jones Reddick. Let me acknowledge the College of Bishops and their spouses. Let me also acknowledge the CIT committee, chaired by Bishop James B. Walker and co-chaired by my bishop, Bishop Thomas L. Brown Sr., and their spouses as well. And as always, I am most appreciative for the hard work and support of Dr. Teresa Duhart. I am grateful that you have joined me. October is a month filled with a number of awareness, including breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness. And so we hope that you are sharing good news and information about this to members of your congregation. And I pray that you had a marvelous worship experience today at your particular church, be it virtual on YouTube or on Facebook, on your website, or whether it was a drive-in service. We know that God was praised and God is worthy to be praised. So let me now bring up our general officers and invite them to come and to share with me today. Let me bring Dr. Tyrone Davis, also Dr. Roderick Lewis, Dr. Orr Spraggan, and Dr. Panay Woods. These are the general officers that I will have the pleasure and the opportunity to share with today. Good afternoon, general officers.
Good afternoon.
So delighted to have you all with us today to continue the conversation and to share with our church about the great work that you do. Sometimes we assume that everyone in the church knows exactly what each of you do in your respective areas, personnel service and publications, and as editor to the Christian Index and our general secretary. So we make no assumptions. And today we want you to just kind of walk us through your journey to get to that office and tell us a little bit about what you do. We're going to start with the senior most member of this group, and delighted to have Dr. Tyrone Davis. So Dr. Davis, just give us a little bit about your background and profession, education, and how you arrived and decided to offer yourself a position, and how long you've been serving as well.
Thank you, Dr. Skip, for this opportunity to participate. And I only need about an hour and a half to tell this story. But for me, the story begins a long time ago. I was born into a Navy family. My father had served in World War II on the old USS Enterprise. And so my family traveled around. Unfortunately, when I was 7, my parents separated, and my mother took my sister and me to Alabama to be raised by our grandparents there. My grandmother was a member of New Purchase CME Church in Beatrice, Alabama, and that began my journey although I had been to church before, I didn't really understand or know that much about the experience and traveling with my parents during my father's service period. But it began for me then. Um, Actually, I acknowledged a call to my ministry very, very early, shortly after joining the church when I was seven years old. Um, of course, nobody believed that of a 7-year-old at that time, so I did not get to preach my first sermon until I was 13 in 1962. So I'm in my 58th year of preaching ministry, and thankful to God that I've had that great opportunity. During that time, when I finished high school, went to college, University of Cincinnati. I was a part of the church there. I was licensed to preach in 1963, and every year thereafter until 1967, when I was admitted on trial. I was ordained a deacon and an elder both in 1970 after graduating from college, and admitted in full connection in 1971. So that's when my journey in earnest began in the real life of the church. I had pastored a couple of congregations, one when I was 17, one when I was in college, and again, I pastored right after college and continued that part. My degree in college was in accounting, which didn't seem to lend itself as readily to the ministry, but I did have the opportunity of being bivocational, which helped support my ministry. And I continued in that vein for several years. Did seminary in Kentucky under the direction or the appointment of Bishop E.P. Murchison, who wanted me to go to that ecumenical experience. I do regret, although I got great benefit from my college education at the University of Cincinnati and with Lexington Seminary, I do regret not having had an HBCU background.
Mm-hmm.
It just left a longing there, which over time I've sought to fill in by serving on boards of our CME affiliated colleges. So that has been another dimension of my journey. I have served as a pastor in 5 Episcopal districts, so I've come to learn and know the church a great deal from that perspective. As well as utilizing my skills in my accounting ministry to serve the church also. I was chosen by the late Bishop Kirkendall to be recommended to the College of Bishops as the administrative coordinator for the church in 1982, and that was the group that role was a part of the church's effort at restructure. And in that role, I contributed a great deal with how some of the changes and improvements were to be designed and implemented. And it was a wonderful experience for me. Of course, as in everything, it became a political role when we established the position of executive secretary, where I did offer myself. But like most relationships, and if you will, courtships, in offering myself that way, I was not accepted. So another was chosen, and I returned to the active pastorate and served there for 2 more years before then going to Washington, D.C. to begin work on special assignment from the church with the Congress of National Black Churches. And with that group, I served for a total of 12 years. And that brought me eventually to Memphis, In the year 2000, under the leadership of retired Senior Bishop Marshall Gilmore, who was chair of the board for the Board of Personnel Services. He, with Dr. N. Charles Thomas, my predecessor, engaged me to serve as assistant to the General Secretary for a 2-year period. And that allowed me the opportunity to offer myself to the church to succeed Dr. Thomas. In this particular occasion, again, a political experience, but I came out on the positive side this time. I was elected, and I did begin that period of service. In 2002, Dr. Carmichael Crutchfield and I were elected on the same ballot, first ballot, and we have served together. And we started out as the youngest, and now we two are the seniors of the General Officers Council. He's a little bit younger than I am. I will be retiring by mandatory retirement at our next general conference. And he has another term available to him afterward. But we have worked together, not only being elected together, but worked together in the same office for the last 18 years. And it has been a wonderful relationship. Now, my work with the church involves the retirement program. That's the primary purpose for my department. It was founded 100 years ago. So we just celebrated our centennial in 2018. And now we're looking at the 150th year of the church. So we've been a part of the church for quite a period. And in that 100-year term, I am the 6th person to hold this particular office. At this particular time, we are responsible for the retirement plan for the CME Church. We are responsible for our safe harbor program, our key person plan, and we also have the fire and casualty insurance plan. And the program initially began with what people now come to understand as the gift fund program. It was old SPW&O program. That was where we really began until the new retirement plan was put into place in the 70s. The retirement plan now has a number value of approximately $30 million. A little bit more than that, would be much more than that if we had not had the challenges with the with the market earlier this year. But we are recovering and we are moving forward. This program provides retirement benefits through contributions from individual congregations and for our connectional leadership for almost 1,200 participants. And we additionally provide through our department a retiree insurance program that we fund to provide additional insurance for those participants who have retired up until their death, for as long as we're able to afford to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So I love the work. It's been a beautiful work. It's been challenging at times, but that's what work is about. And we've come a long ways with it, and we're thankful for that.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We appreciate you. Learned quite a bit about you. And sometimes you're so known for the work that you do as a general officer. I forgot that you were also a preacher and a minister. You know, but this is an expansion of your ministry, as you've indicated. Well, we'll be back to yes. Go ahead.
Yes, could I just say a thank you to the Greenwood CME Church that has allowed me to continue to exercise aspects of my ministry in that environment on occasions, in support of that ministry there, and particularly the present minister that we have with us now. Pastor Omar Dykes.
Absolutely. Shout out the great Greenwood if you will. Thank you, and we'll be back with you soon to talk a little bit more about what you see relating to the future of the department that you've served for so many years. Our next officer is the General Secretary of Publications. He is certainly no stranger to our beloved church. That is in the name of Reverend Dr. Roderick D. Lewis, who has served and is also serving as a pastor as well. Dr. Lewis, would you please share with us your journey to the office that you currently hold now as our General Secretary of Publications?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Skip. This opportunity. Let me begin by saying that I'm a lifelong CME, fourth generation, born into the CME Church, grew up in the Sydney Park CME Church in Columbia, South Carolina. My great-grandmother took me there as an infant and as a toddler. I remember that, sitting on the second pew in the center aisle for many years until she allowed me to sit further back in the church. I grew up learning to understand the liturgy and the teachings of the church. We would often go home and discuss church after the service over dinner. My grandmother would help me understand the meaning of the text and the sermon and the purpose and meaning of the hymns and the rituals. And I grew early in my life to appreciate them. And at 8 years old, I joined the church on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother looked at me one Sunday morning, wondering why I was walking down the aisle, but I felt compelled to say to the church that I wanted to be an active member, and grew up there being an active member, serving in the choirs, youth choirs, senior choir for a while, Christian Youth Fellowship. When I was 11, I was elected president of the CYF for the Charleston Columbia District. And I know that I should have been 12, but my friends and other members of the churches embraced me and encouraged me, and I served in that position for 7 years. Came to really love and get to know the church. I was a member of the Charleston Columbia District with the Reverend W.R. Fouché, and Reverend Fouché took me around with him when he did quarters and meetings, and allowed me to see the church much different from what I was accustomed to at Sydney Park in the very rural areas, and to get to know people and to embrace an understanding of what our church was at all those various levels. And so early in my life, I came to feel that God was calling me to some service in the church that I had come to love. So at 17, under the Reverend Dr. Jimmy E. Gilbert at Sydney Park, and went away to college at Livingstone College in Salisbury, and had opportunity then to work with Dr. Will Chambers as a youth pastor at the Mount Zion CME Church in Salisbury, North Carolina. Finished my college education, and in 1979, I was assigned to my first church, to New Hope CME Church, right outside of Lexington, in a little town called Gilbert, South Carolina. And my life in the church became a catalyst for me. It moved me places. It gave me opportunities. It shared itself with me, and made me more compelled to share myself with it. Early, under the leadership of Dr. Chambers, I learned to appreciate Christian education from a conference and connectional standpoint, and he helped me understand the meaning of Christian education and how to implement the program of Christian education. And when I was 21 years old, Bishop Lindsay appointed me as the Director of Christian Education for the Carolina Conference, then Region Now, a position I served in for 7 years until I was moved to the New York, Washington Conference when Bishop Broomfield made me the director of Christian education for that conference. So Christian education and ministry were my first loves. I was very involved in the Christian Educators organization very early in my life, and grew up under a lot of seniors who were very seasoned in Christian education, and who offered a lot of advice and counsel and direction for me, and helped me to develop a sense and a theology around Christian education. And I continue to work in that arena with Dr. Crutchfield. I worked with Connectional Youth Conferences and other Christian education programs. Preaching was something I've struggled with over time. I enjoy preaching. I enjoy developing sermons. I don't count myself among the better preachers, but I give it my all when I have opportunity. So I was fortunate to be the first pastor and organizer of a small church in Columbia, the community CME church there, and later was moved to Charlotte, where I pastored the Logan Chapel CME church for 3 years. During that time, I started my work on my master's degree, and then was moved to DC, where I pastored the Miles Memorial CME church, and attended Howard University and received my Master of Divinity degree from Howard. I was later moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I became the presiding elder of the Philadelphia district and served there for 3 years. After that, I was moved to back to Charlotte and served the Parkwood Church there for 9 years as its pastor. It's been a long, rich experience for me. I have learned a lot about people. My background is in human behavior and social work, and it has enhanced my understanding of the human being and the human nature. It has given me a great love for the people of the church and for the whole connection. I've had many opportunities that have afforded me to embrace even to a greater degree this church and what it means to me and what it has meant to people. I worked with some very powerful and caring people. I had the opportunity of working with the districts with the Women's Connectional Council under the leadership of Dr. Judith Brandt. I worked with them for 8 years, organizing and planning their meetings and helping to implement their connectional meetings. And so all of those things have helped me see the church from many, many vantage points and to come to appreciate the church. Not saying that I'm always happy with every decision or every move, but it has helped me understand that church has purpose, even when we don't appreciate what it's doing at the time. I've been in it long enough now that I've seen decisions made that it may have impacted me negatively in the beginning, but I've seen purpose in them as time has progressed. I got to the Department of Publication in a kind of roundabout way. As I expressed earlier, my real love first was Christian education. And I had worked in Christian education under several of the general secretaries. And when Dr. Crutchfield decided he would offer himself for bishop in hopes that he was elected, I offered myself for Christian education. However, because of circumstances in my personal life, because my wife grew ill, I decided to discontinue that pursuit. And she later passed. And I was at a quandary, kind of wondering where I was going in my life, where I was going in the life of the church. And got a call one night telling me that that there were persons who believed that Dr. George was at retirement age, and asked me, was that something I would consider? And I did a lot of praying over that decision because I really enjoyed my work in Christian education. I worked in various areas of it, but it was an opportunity that it gave me an opportunity both to move to another area, another arena at the passing of my wife, and find myself in a different place. And it has indeed been a blessing to me. Now, what do we do at the Department of Publications? Well, we're described as the agents for printing and distribution. That becomes a very broad term. We do printing for Sunday school literature, Christian Index. We print the all programs for connectional meetings. We are also a local printing service for those who need programs and small booklets and printed. Who we can print for people across the connection. We do anniversary programs. We do bulletin covers. We are a full scale printing company. And I think that sometimes our membership misses that as an opportunity. We don't just print for the connectional periodicals, but we are a full service printing company. We can print almost anything that you can get printed at any other printer. We have a full service print shop at the 4237 Elvis Presley um, um, site. And we also are responsible for distribution. We distribute Sunday school literature quarterly to more than 1,200 constituents. We distribute the Christian Index monthly to over 4,000 constituents. And we service those periodicals. We service them by helping in the development and printing. We help in the layout. We help in making sure that that the addresses are processed, that subscriptions are processed. And so all of that happens in and out of our office here in Memphis. And we also run the Miles Christian Bookstore, where we are responsible for providing church attire, church supplies, communions, pastoral supplies, shirts, robes, collars, those kind of things. We provide books that are current and books that are printed by Christian Methodist authors, and all of the handbooks, most of the handbooks that are printed through our denominational departments are available through us, as well as other gift items and worship items that can be purchased directly from the Miles Christian Bookstore. In this time of COVID, many churches have noticed that Christian bookstores have closed across the country, and communion elements and other elements needed for worship are not available, and they are available through us at the Miles Christian Bookstore. During this time, I've also had the opportunity to pastor in this area. I've pastored the Salem CME Church in Jackson, Tennessee, the Nichols Chapel CME Church in Byhalia, Mississippi, and presently I am pastoring, beginning my fourth year there, at the Bates Chapel CME Church in Coldwater, Mississippi. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey. My children, I have 2 children and 6 grandchildren. They've all supported me in this journey, as well as many, many, many members of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church who have undergirded the work we do, have been encouraging in our work, and have given us opportunity to serve the church. And that is really the one thing that I think I've been led to do from the time I was 8 years old or younger. So I just wanted to be of service to the church. Some people ask, well, if you're in Christian education, why would you take publications? It was an opportunity that has blessed my life, and it has given me opportunity to be of service in the life of the Connectional Church. And that's where I am. It has enhanced my life in so many ways, and I have grown because of that. And I thank you for this opportunity to be able to share with the church my life and my journey.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Wow, tremendous journey and accomplishments, and I appreciate your sharing. And I'm certain a lot of people learned even more so about what you offer and the Department of Publications in terms of services that are provided to our church. And so we appreciate that and look forward to coming back to you soon. Next, we will hear from our editor of the Christian Index, Dr. Orr Spraggan, and I hope I said that right. I know you've given lessons on the pronunciation of your first name, but I hope that I pronounced it correctly. But we're delighted to have you here, Dr. Spraggan, and walk us through, as the other two have done, your journey through the CME Church and your election as the editor of the Christian Index.
Thank you, Dr. Skip, Brother Skip. And yes, you did pronounce it correctly. There are some, I try not to give lessons on how to pronounce my name, but at the same time, you did do it correctly. It's Orr, and I say Spraggan, and many of you know that my wife pronounces it a little differently, and I just say whatever it is that you say is all right. I don't get hung up on that. Um, I grew up in Clarksdale, Mississippi, the Delta area, and went to house kindergarten. Um, I graduated from house kindergarten when I was 3 years old and went from there to Immaculate Conception School. Uh, Actually, I attended Immaculate Conception from kindergarten through the 12th grade, but went to what we called IC for kindergarten, and of course graduated that kindergarten uh, in a year. And they really, even though I graduated from the first kindergarten and was supposed to go to first grade at that point, they said I was too young to go to first grade. So they put me in kindergarten for a second year, and they really didn't want me to go to first grade after that year. But they said there was no need to keep me at that point. So they went on and let me go to first grade. So uh, I went through the Immaculate Conception School there, Catholic school, and I'm glad for the education I received through that particular educational institution. I'm probably gonna skip back and forth between some of these things. However, I'll try to keep it in an orderly fashion. Uh, I graduated valedictorian of the eighth grade and the 12th grade, and that's a big skip, I know. Uh, when I was in the third grade, I was, I believe I was called to preach when I was in the third grade or getting ready to go into the third grade. I was 6 or 7 years old at that point. So I've got something in common there with a couple of the others. Uh, I was not sure at that time what it meant. I did talk with my parents. I did speak with uh, my pastor at that time. That's a picture of my dad and his mother, Fisher Smith, um, who also were CMEs, lifelong CMEs. And I'm appreciative for the foundation that they both laid and my mother in my life as well. That's a picture of my mother, Henrietta Sprague. And so I'm grateful for the foundation that they laid in my life as a CME. Uh, but I was called at that point. I did not accept the call until I got to college. So I was a sophomore in college when I accepted my call to preach. So that was a quite a bit of a journey. But in the meantime, I grew up there in Clarksdale in the Mount Moriah CME Church, and it was a small church, small membership. We met twice a month. It was one of those churches. And so second and fourth Sundays were our Sundays to meet there at Mount Moriah. But we had a wonderful group of persons who served as members and leaders in that church. And we had a wonderful group of pastors to come through and to serve us and lead us in worship and to show interest in us as a congregation. And I got a chance to go to leadership training schools. Uh, it was at one of those leadership training schools that I believe my call was confirmed in a kind of strange, miraculous way. Uh, I went to, at that time, we had to sign our names in the book. And when it came my turn to sign my name in the book, my name was already signed and Reverend was beside it. And I began to question everybody who signed my name and how did they put the Reverend there? I'm not a Reverend and this, that, and the other. But that was just another one of those. And nobody had signed it, at least, nobody owned up to it. So everybody I said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So anyway, that was just, again, one of those spiritual things, phenomenal things that happened to lead me on. But again, I went to leadership school and had a wonderful time in leadership school and learning about the Lord. Uh, had a great time growing up in the church. And we had a wonderful CYF at Mount Moriah, and it gave me an opportunity not only to learn, but also to practice leadership skills. Uh, So we had a wonderful church again, and I appreciated all of those who led me in any way. I graduated from Immaculate Conception High School in 1980, and I had the opportunity to go to quite a number of institutions, and I chose Jackson State University. Um, they gave me full scholarship and what have you, and I said no need of going anywhere else to have to pay money and have my parents to put that bill and that burden and what have you. So I went to Jackson State and majored in biology pre-med. Had a wonderful experience there at Jackson State University. Um, After Jackson State University, uh, I went to work with the biochemistry lab at one of the biochemistry labs at the University Medical Center for about a year and a half. And during that time period, I also started seminary at the Wesley Biblical Seminary in Jackson, Mississippi. And but I was going full time. While I was working at the University Medical Center, the Lord spoke to me. Now, here again, there are a couple of things that happened. In 1984, I graduated from Jackson State University, but in 1985, I received my first appointment as a pastor in the CME Church. Remember, and I'm saying remember, but in 1982, I had accepted my call to preach finally, and I actually preached two trial sermons. So one of them at my home church of Mount Moriah, and the other at the church I had been attending while I was in college, and that was Lynch Street CME Church. So in 1985, I received my first appointment. Couple of major things happened in 1985. I received my first appointment. I got married in 1985 to my lovely wife, Phyllis Spragan. Not only that, but we also got our first house at that point. So it was a phenomenal year. And that's a picture of my family. That's me and Sister Phyllis, our son Hugh, who is now deceased, and our daughter Janine. So I'm grateful for the support and love that they have given to me as a pastor and a preacher in this church, and I'm grateful for my family definitely. So I do want to say that all of my ordinations, I came in on trial under Bishop Gilmore. I was ordained deacon and elder and received full connection under him. And I'm grateful for his leadership as well as the leadership of other bishops in the church. I don't want to name a whole lot of names, I suppose, because I don't really want to leave anybody out. And everyone who has touched my life in any way has really been of value to me, and I have received something from them. So for every bishop and presiding elder and pastor and Christian educator and lay person, lay leader, I just want to say thank you for the impact that you've had on my life. I served as a pastor in Mississippi for a number of years, graduated from Wesley Biblical Seminary in 1993, moved from Jackson, Mississippi to Columbus, Mississippi, and served there. I also served in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, served in not Holly Springs, served in Crystal Springs, Mississippi, and many other places. I was moved from Mississippi to Louisiana. So I've served in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, and now I'm serving in Georgia. When I was transferred from the 4th Episcopal District to the 5th Episcopal District by Bishop Reddick, and I appreciate that opportunity as well. I also received in that transfer the opportunity to serve as a presiding elder. I served as a presiding elder in the 1st Episcopal District, and now I'm pastoring in Georgia at this point at the Hines Memorial CME Church in Albany, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm thankful for the members and officers here at Hines. So in terms of the position, I ran for the office of editor in 2010, and I'll get back to something else in a little bit. But in 2010, I ran for the office of editor. I did not get elected in 2010, but the Lord saw fit to call me again to run, and I was elected in 2014 and again in 2018. I'm very grateful because I do believe, and that's a picture from our installation service in 2014, I believe. But in any case, I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve the church in this capacity. I do believe that God called me to this position to serve in a time such as this. What I skipped over was that in '93, I graduated from Wesley Biblical Seminary. And in 2006, I entered the doctoral studies at the Graduate Theological Foundation. I graduated from GTF in 2010 with a Doctor of Theology and Methodist Studies. The school at that time was located in Mishawaka, Indiana, but the coursework that I took was from Oxford in England. So I'm grateful for the time of study, the time of travel that I was allowed and participated in. And since that time, I've been trying to serve the Lord as best I can in every capacity that He gives to me. What you've just seen, what you're seeing now, and what you saw previously was part of my work as editor. I attend our connectional meetings, and I'm very grateful. I have to say this, particularly when we come to our unity summits and our general conferences. I'm very grateful to those persons who assist me in writing. I know I can't do it all. I can't be everywhere at one time. And so there are persons who assist me in writing, and I want to say thank you to you at this time. But as one of the things I do as editor is to attend various connectional meetings so that I can report on what is happening to our church. And so what you saw there, one picture was from the International Unity Summit in Nairobi, Kenya. The other picture that you saw, that picture comes from the establishment of a board of trustees for the Breeden Montgomery Bible College in Akwa Ibom State, Ikat Ekpene in Nigeria. And of course, also at that time, we were rededicating the Breeden Montgomery Bible School. So that's part of what I do as editor of the Christian Index. The Christian Index itself has been in existence since 1867, which actually predates the CME Church. And so it has always been an integral part of who we are as CMEs. Its function has always been to provide information to the members of the church regarding what's happening in the church from the, if you want to say from the top down, what's happening in our church connectionally, as well as what's happening in our church locally. And so very critical to the Christian Index is articles that are received from persons in the local churches. And so you know, as editor, you can't be everywhere. I can't be everywhere, but I can receive the articles that persons send in, and it's my responsibility as editor to receive those, to make sure that they are as clear as possible for inclusion in the Christian Index, to lay out the Christian Index, and then to give to the publisher a final product that he then can put in the print form and send to the various members of our church as well as others. The Christian Index through the years has served as a means of informing the members of our church, again, of what's happening in our connection, as well as providing information and inspiration for members of our local church, our local churches. And so we're very glad for that. The other thing that the Christian Index does, or one other thing that the Christian Index does, is provide commentary on various social events. And so it's not just for the members of the church to see what's going on in the church, but it provides commentary on what's happening in the world. And I think we have seen that. In fact, I know we have seen that throughout its history, but we're also seeing it now as we are in this tumultuous time, if I may use that word, that we're in right now. Various persons, a number of persons are now writing articles about their experiences during this time. And I'm very grateful again to receive those articles and to share what you have to say and your thoughts with the world, as well as articles that deal with the education of our church. We include articles that speak to those institutions that Dr. Davis talked about, our CME related institutions. We include information related to the episcopacy. Sometimes our bishops have things that they want to include, and so we share their vision, their work in the pages of the Christian Index, as well as the financial reports that come from time to time from our CFO, Dr. Victor Taylor. And then, of course, we definitely include in there what's happening with our children and youth, young adults. And then we talk about, we include, again, those persons who have left this life, but who have certainly committed their lives to the CME Church and have committed and contributed to who and what this church is at this time. I don't know if there's anything else that you would want me to say or that I might say at this time. I hope I haven't left anything out.
I think you've been very thorough, Dr. Spragan.
Okay.
Most appreciative for giving us a really broad view, first of all, of your ministry and your walk, and certainly the wonderful work that you do as the editor and what the magazine has meant historically. So I appreciate that, and we'll be back to you with a few, questions as I'm going to pose to all of you. And thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And last but certainly not least is the General Secretary of our church, Dr. Panay Woods. Actually, Dr. Panay has been on the show a couple of times with me when I did a piece on the CYF and the CYM and a couple of other subjects. She is a cousin of Bishop Roy Young, niece.
Right.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Yes, the niece of Bishop Young. And so her ties run very deep, very active with the CYF. So Dr. We're so glad to have you back again. And like the others, would you just share about your journey to the office that you currently hold?
Certainly. Thank you, Mason, and to all of my colleagues that have spoken before. Of course, Methodism has been in my DNA before my birth. As my parents would say, my parents were married for a good 8 years before I came along. And supposedly I was considered a miracle child because my mom had been told she could not have kids. I grew up and were certainly birthed by some wonderful parents, Mr. and Mrs. Waddell Gray. My mother was Quilla Ross before she married my dad. I come from, I guess, the whole DNA of Methodism and was on the Otis and Gray sides. And the Baptist side was, my mother grew up Baptist, and my grandfather on my dad's side actually grew up in the Church of God in Christ. But when he married my grandmother, Mary Otis Gray, he became a Methodist. At the age of 3, they were my first teachers, my grandparents. I was reading and writing at the age of 3 because my mother was an educator and a teacher who had to go to school every day. And my dad was an ag man who actually had the first dairy in the area where I grew up, which was in Prentiss, Mississippi, with the community of Carson, Mississippi. My church was the Blackman Temple CME Church. That church was planted by the late Reverend Blackman and my great uncle, the late Bishop Roy Young. I accepted Christ at the age of 8, but of course I was traveling and in church seemed like every day, almost with my grandmother and my other grandparents, both of my set of my grandparents. My mother's grandparents, my grandfather was a really good Baptist singer, and he loved his pastor so much that a suite was built onto his house so the pastor would have somewhere to stay when he would come into town, into Prentice at the Mount Zion Baptist Church. I attended school at elementary school at Carver High School. At that time, that was the first Black school in the county. My dad and Mr. N.J. Booth were the two men who actually got the land and fought to get the first Black school. And my mother was the first person, Black or white, to get a master's degree in the county. But when she returned back to the county from Indiana, at Indiana University, there was nowhere for her to teach. She had to, at a regular high school, so she taught at the Prentice Institute Junior College. I continued to Carver High until 8th grade. I was valedictorian of the 8th grade class. And because my dad was president and working as vice chair of the then Freedom Democratic Party, they were talking about, of course, freedom of choice schools and being able to go to the white schools. So, of course, my brother and I were the first to attend Basel High School at that time, at 9th grade. At 11th grade, they changed the districts, so I actually had to move for my last 2 years at Prentice High School, which I then graduated top of my class. I was a very active young person in regard to my church, as president of the CYF, the district CYF, the Gloucester-Hattiesburg district, and also president of the annual conference, the Mississippi South Annual Conference. I started playing for my church at the age of 13 for the church choir and actually for the Holly Springs CME Church. I think that picture there is where I won an award at a 4-H club contest out at Mississippi State, I believe, at the time. So following that, also won public speaking award. I think that's the article from the Prentice Headlight. After leaving, that photo is a picture of speaking, I believe at a NAACP meeting as president of the Youth NAACP for the state of Mississippi at that time. After leaving high school, I went to the University of Mississippi. I had a dream at that time. Everything was focused on becoming a doctor. So for 2 years, I was at the University of Southern Mississippi in pre-med. And my mind kind of changed and started focused and decided I was going to go the nursing route. So I left and went to the St. Dominic School of Nursing, which I graduated there with an RN in nursing, and then to the University of Mississippi. At the time, I had been accepted to go to medical school and ended up getting married to a CME preacher. So my grandmother was really pushing. She thought a woman should have a career, but after you got your first degree, that she thought you should get married and not go any further, because I think she thought I was not going to get married if I went into medical school. So getting married to a CME preacher, as you know, it requires you to move around a lot. At that time, the minister I was married to, we were first in Holly Springs, Mississippi, at the Anderson Chapel Church. So I left my job as a nurse for Jefferson Davis County Hospital, and we were in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and became the school nurse for cadet schools. Left Holly Springs, went to Meridian, Mississippi, had my first son, Christopher. We left there, went to Atlanta, Georgia, where my husband was pastor at Chi Temple. and I had my second son. While in Atlanta, I worked for Emory Department of Plastic Surgery, MJ Jacabish at the time. We were there for 2 years, I believe. Left, came back to Mississippi again, and was at the Anderson Chapel Church. From there to Memphis, Tennessee, to the Trinity Church. And that's when I changed careers. Was offered a position with Delta Airlines in marketing. So I went from nursing, being a nurse, to working as a director of marketing for the Memphis and Arkansas regions. Left Memphis and went to Jackson, Tennessee, where my husband was pastor at the Mother Liberty Church. And upon moving there, I actually was asked to manage a travel agency owned by then Senator Baker. The Delta Airlines director knew that I was going to Jackson, and Senator Baker was looking for a manager. So I was there for a year when Dr. Chambers came to Lane College. He asked me if I would lead managing the agency to come and become personnel manager for Lane College, because they did not have a personnel department, and they needed someone to write a personnel manual and put together the department, which we did. We became a part of the University Personnel Association and did that writing and did what we needed to do there. Also served in public relations there and over the UNCF, where we had our UNCF telethon on the television stations there locally. Leaving there, went to Ohio. My husband left the CME Church at that time, and he went to Ohio. I then served as a director of training for U.S. Airways. After that short time, moved back to Nashville, Tennessee, where I was head of the reservation center for U.S. Airways. So after that point, we were divorced, and left and was offered one of the first positions for African American in automated marketing with U.S. Airways in Boston. So I moved to Boston and served there as over the automated marketing region for U.S. Airways, which included the states of Maine, Connecticut, and the whole entire Boston territory. Shortly after that, moved back to Mississippi. My mom became ill and could not transfer. US Air was merging with British Airways at the time. And that's my great-grandmother and my great-aunt. That's Mrs. Stella Young. And my great-grandmother, Miss Anna Graham Otis. Came back to Mississippi, and en route back, I was asked, Harvey Hotels was then building or buying 3 hotels in Mississippi. And one of the reps had contacted me and found out at the time when I was with US Air that they needed someone over executive sales. So took a position there in executive sales. And then while there, after that position, I was asked to come back to Lane College under Dr. McClure because they were needing someone to rewrite the Title III program. My mother passed away during that time. Before, and I think I left out a few things along the way, Dr. Skip, but that's a Lane College picture under Dr. Chambers. I'm not sure there was an event, I think a concert, after a concert that evening. In 1976, Bishop Joseph Johnson, the late Joseph Johnson, who was definitely a mentor of mine, had asked me to run for National Youth Conference president. At the time, the National Youth Conference was in Memphis, Tennessee, and that is where I was elected National Youth Conference president. Dr. Johnson was over Christian education, and he was very supportive, very, very supportive, and I represented the church at the World Methodist Council in Ireland. I went to Canada for a couple of events, And everywhere that he thought a young person should be represented with our church, he was certainly sending me to those locations to represent the church. I just have had a very good childhood, a very good youth. Later married a wonderful person, Curtis Woods. We live here in Memphis now. Been here about 8 years. The position of executive secretary, that's my son, Christopher. He lives in Irvine, California, works for Edwards Life Sciences. And it's my baby son, Dominic, who lives in Nashville, Tennessee. He works for Vanderbilt. So proud of the two sons that we're able to do doing this change of moving around the world, as they say. In regard to the position of executive secretary, as it's outlined in the Book of Discipline, first of all, the first responsibilities is to administer the operations of the connectional headquarters, which is located here in Memphis, Tennessee. Secondly, I'm responsible for the General Conference, the meetings of the General Conference, the General Connectional Board, the CME Convocation, which was the original name, now the CME Unity Summit, and any other meetings in Episcopal districts that is directed by the College of Bishops, and to serve as a liaison between the CME Church and other ecumenical bodies as assigned by the College of Bishops. And the other thing is to look at development and any grants that may be available for Episcopal districts or our local churches, our annual conferences. That picture is a picture from the meeting of the National Black Coalition of National Black Meeting Planners. One of the things that once upon taking this position is very important that you become a part of the organizations that deal with meeting planning. Meeting planning, if you know the corporate persons, it's easy to deal with the contracts a lot easier and find the sites that you want to go to that are good for the church. That's a picture from being elected in Birmingham with one of the pastors from Mississippi. And that photo is taken at Connect Faith that was in Grand Rapids. And the person there is president of the National Coalition of National Black Meeting Planners. And she's also the director that does the same thing that I do with the Full Gospel denomination. So that's it that I have right now for any questions. I can't hear you.
I need to unmute myself first. That's a tremendous journey, Dr. Woods, and we see that with all of you. Let me unmute all of you at this time. And Dr. Okay, thank you very much. So all of you, and this for me, this has been so enlightening because I don't know that, the church gets to hear about your journey. They know you in the position that you've served. They know you running for office and campaigning and traveling. Of course, people who have known you for a long time, of course, may have some insight to your individual stories, but certainly each one of you have demonstrated your own personal journey, your walk of faith, your involvement with church, and your engagement in those things that you love. So we are in our 150th year, just about in December, 150 years of service to God's people as the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. So what I'd like for you to do very briefly is to give us a forecast from your perspective as a general secretary of your department about our church. Dr. Davis, you're dealing with personnel services and where are we? What lies ahead, particularly with what's going on in our world politically and financially, economically? And, Dr. Lewis, what do you see in terms of expansion of the work that you're doing? And Dr. Spragan, with the Christian Index, and it's our voice. And I think you may have mentioned, but I'm not. We have online presence. And Dr. Woods, tell us about, we got a general conference in 2022, which I'm certain that you're working on. And are we doing, is there any planned program for December? Well, I know it's COVID-19, but just kind of tell us. Now, remember, it has to be brief. Okay, each one of you, after I listened to you, I said I could have done a show just with each person by themselves. But just briefly, just kind of touch on a few things that I've mentioned about the future of our church from your perspective. Dr. Davis.
Okay, thank you. I'll try to be brief. One of the things I did not get to say, really, it's not a direct responsibility for my office, but my position also serves as a registered agent for the church. And so any legal matters that are brought against the Connectional Church, they're actually served on me. I get to see some of these matters. And it increases the need for us to have our churches better prepared to address legal concerns or to avoid legal concerns, if I can say it that way. My position is also the custodian for the official papers of the church, such as our tax exempt status and et cetera, which we do have in a safe. I can't give them out. Now that's done through our general counsel, but that raises the point of the importance of our churches as they go into the future, into what we're now experiencing as a highly politicized period, that our churches need to be very careful how they engage in political activity while still protecting their not-for-profit status, so that the churches are not penalized. As far as the other portions of my department, of course, the retirement department, the retirement program is extremely important, because it is about more than just retirement. It's about insurance on the lives of our participants, and also for their spouses. And so there's a continuing teaching process. And we're in the process now of preparing a manual that will be hopefully more informative to people as to how this department operates in that particular area. And if it is successful enough, that it may be even included by the College of Bishops as part of the course of study for ministers, so that they will be more familiar with this part of the church's program, because we do have some who are not participating and who should be, who feel like they can take the sacrifice now in their young years and then and not be a burden to their churches, but this is something important for them. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to take too much time from my colleagues, but I do see that it is important for us as a denomination to be extremely careful as to how we prepare ourselves going forward in because too many of our people are being penalized and deprived of opportunities and benefits that could be taken advantage of if we are in those best positions to do that. So that's something I just, and we're trying to do that. I'm not saying we're not, but we just need to continue that. We need to continue to promote that side, build it up in a protective way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. And before we get to Dr. Lewis, someone texted me and they said, why doesn't the CME Church have health insurance for its pastors? Would you just address that issue for me, please?
Okay, yeah. That's been raised many times. And of my 18 years in office, we've sought to do it, to do it twice.
Okay.
And what happens is that when number one, people ask for things that they're not willing to commit themselves to when we get the initial program, if they already have it elsewhere. Many of our pastors are bivocational, and they are covered by they have insurance covered by their other job.
Right.
Some are pastors are covered by the insurance by their spouses, and they then don't feel the need to enroll in a plan that's going to cost additional funds.
Sure.
And so what has happened is that we've never been able to get enough people to participate so that we could have a very good program. Now, understand that the better programs for a group requires the premium to be paid by the employer.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you go into what's called an association type program. And those programs give you very, very limited benefits. So when we've made our best offerings to try to get people to come in, we've gotten very little response.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for addressing that. Dr. Lewis, tell us about the future of your department and any challenges that you might have at this time.
Well, we live in a very rapidly evolving technological society, which becomes a challenge to what I call the mom and pop print shops. We can't compete with the larger print companies, but we have a way of serving people in the more local and localized areas who need service at a more comfortable financial position.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this time, we just need the support of our church. Several years ago, when desktop publishing became very popular, I'm sure it challenged Dr. George. Now people become much more technologically savvy and are doing a lot of jobs by themselves and for themselves. But we try to present a quality that would come out of any of the top print shops. And so those kinds of things, as well as if you look around you, all of the Christian bookstores are closing, and there are very few within our local communities.
That's so true.
We provide a resource for the connection that many people are having difficulty finding in their local areas. And so those are the things that we do. We're always challenged with finances, because in this evolving technology, we've got to keep upgraded as well. We got to keep upgraded programming, upgraded equipment, not just for printing, but for development of projects. And of course, with the rising technology comes rising costs. And so we are always looking for ways to manage how we invest in order to keep the business afloat. And so those are the challenges we face. And that we are probably not used as much as we could be by local churches who may not realize us as a resource. But I want to say today that we are a resource for local churches, for districts, for regions and regional conferences, for women's conferences and men's meetings. We can do the kind of work you need. All we need is a phone call to do that. Let me also say that our work would not be possible in many arenas if it were not for a relationship that we have to have and have worked to have with the editor of the Christian Index, Dr. Spraggin. So we work very closely to make sure that periodical is out in a timely manner each month. And he has been an excellent agent with us, working to make sure that we receive the printed text in order to get it printed and distributed in a timely manner. So I want to thank him on this public forum for the work he does and the way he works with our office in making that happen.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. Again, I think so many people are going to, I hope, utilize the services that you offer. And I assume you would offer services to people outside of the church.
Anybody who walks through our door,
walks
through our doors and picks up the phone and calls us, and we can set up an appointment to set up. Yes, like I said, we are full service, just like Kinko's. We are full
Yeah.
service print company. So
That
yes,
is so
sir.
great to hear. So great to hear. And before I get to Dr. Spraggin, and I want to share also that this coming Tuesday is our Good Trouble Tuesday 2020. And so we encourage you and invite you, an initiative of Dr. Bishop Marvin Frank Thomas as the coordinator and his committee, coalition committee. So make sure that you tune in each Tuesday on the CME Church webpage. And I had to do that because when you get my age, you forget. And I did not want to do all my goodbyes and farewells without making sure that I plug this announcement and share this as well. Dr. Spraggin, tell us about the future of the Christian Index and any challenges that you see ahead, particularly in the time that we're living in right now.
Thank you again for the opportunity. And I do see a few challenges before us. We've been around for a little better than 150 years serving our church and the people, and we're very glad for that. And I'm grateful to say that we've been continuous. But I also want to say that even prior to my election in 2014 and prior to my first run in 2010, I have been an advocate for an electronic or online edition of the Christian Index. And I'm grateful that in April of this year, I got a chance with the permission and authority of the church to begin to try to do that. So the index has been made available electronically online since April of this year. And we're looking forward, according to the plan of the church at this point, with the cooperation of Dr. Lewis and Publications, that it'll be even more available. That's not to say that the print edition is going to be gotten rid of. No, we still need for all of our people a print edition as well as an electronic edition. So we're looking at and hopeful that will happen and perhaps in the spring or summer of next year. But let me also say that not only are we looking to expand, or I would hope that we would expand the reach and the work of the index to include that electronic version, but as we look at the goings on of this time and those who are involved, that when I look at the pages of the Christian Index, I don't see as many submissions by young adults as I would like to see. And I've always asked our young adults to participate in that. And I've even approached some and said, will you write on this or will you write on that? And of course, you can see the result of that in the pages of the index. So I would hope that we'll have more participation and submissions from our young adults in the church, as well as some of those professionals. If you considered the interviews, the presentations that have been made by those of us who are present on this call this evening, as well as others, we are professional in many different ways. And there are some things that some other professionals in the church can write about that would help us as people of the church. When I look over the last 150 years at some of the content of the Christian Index, is not just all about church. And I have tried to say to people, we need to hear from you as it relates to your profession, but not from necessarily a professional point of view only, but what does it mean for us in the church? How does it impact us as Christians and our Christian witness? So for me, the Christian Index is a means to say to people of Christian faith, as well as to serve as a witness to others. This is what being a Christian means. This is what it is about, and how you live your life and how you share your testimony. Here are some examples. So I would hope that as we go forward, that we will continue to expand the witness of the church in the Christian Index, as well as the forms by which we get it out.
Great. Thank you.
And if I may,
Yes.
I'd also like, I think we need a greater overall presence from other people of other lands as we expand the work of the church into other areas as well. So here again, we just need to improve on the inclusion of the Christian Index and how we get it out to various people.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Dr. Woods, tell us, you know, what is the future for our church as it relates to events and activity, things that fall up under your umbrella? And you kind of mentioned how we've had to deal and how we've dealt with COVID-19, cancellation of events and planning. And so let us just sort of walk us through that and from your perspective as our General Secretary.
Certainly. Dr. Mason, it's important that everyone understand that COVID-19 certainly has been a challenge, not only connectionally, but at the local church. And in regard to the connections in redoing, canceling meetings and rescheduling, nothing is ever going to totally be the same again.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand things are going to be done differently. People are going to be using more electronic versions of a little bit of everything. We had our first connectional board meeting via virtual in September.
Okay.
And it basically, we put a team together, technical team together so we could do that. But you're going to see more of that. But in regard to the meetings, we have rescheduled those for another year. But we don't even know what that's going to look like in another year.
Right.
2022, we have General Conference. So my advice has been basically that, yes, we are planning these meetings, but there has to be a plan 2 or plan B, because you don't know what would happen. What would we do in 2022 if we can't physically come together? Well, we may have to virtually elect bishops. We may virtually do legal type things.
Right.
On a number of webinars and training sessions with corporate leaders of hotels and other event planning groups, and coming up with a lot of different methods to do things. So it's a moving piece right now.
Right.
But as my advice to the local church, as you start to either soft open or continue virtually, you have to remember nothing's going to go back to what like it used to be.
Right.
So we're going to have to keep both virtual and physical if you do that. I was listening to 2 different sermons today. One was from Dr. Richardson with the Conference of National Black Churches.
Yes, I listened to that as well.
And Dr. Ed Stevens. And one of the things Dr. Bishop Stevens was talking about, the power of endurance. We have to have some endurance right now. And it's important that local churches and members understand this is a time where we really have to be disciples. We really need to be reaching out to our members, reaching out to our neighbors, making sure they're okay, making sure they have food, making sure they're making it through. I just got a call earlier this morning that a young man, 24 years old, in my community in Jefferson Davis County, was found dead, overdosed, in his arm. So, we're dealing, as the new member, the director of the board of the YWCA, they manage the only domestic abuse shelter here in Memphis. And it went from 32 families to 50 overnight. So the domestic abuse is up.
Wow.
So the church has a mission right now.
Yeah.
And we do have to be cognizant of what's going on around us. And in order to endure, in spite of what's going on in our past or whatever's going on now, we got to reach for those things, as it says in Philippians 3. But my concern is that if we're going to grow as a church, we have to move and do things differently.
Yeah.
You can't continue to do things like you used to do it. Because right now with COVID-19, we're in a holding pattern. You're in a holding pattern with airplane. We don't know where we're going to land at this point.
True.
So while we're in the holding pattern, we have to be ready. And we can pick up the phone and call a neighbor.
Right.
We can check on someone. And the main thing, too, is we got to vote. If they've done the census, you got to do that if you still have time. And we got to make sure our neighbors, making sure they are voting and doing what's necessary, because we're in a crisis time right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with just our church or our denomination. It's every denominational body now. It's experiencing the same thing.
Yes.
But the other side, as far as my department, I see a bright future.
Mm-hmm.
I am assisting, as Dr. Lewis said, we are a resource, assisting a number of churches. We're getting their 501c3. And just stay tuned for a big announcement that we've gotten a partnership with that you're going to hear about soon. That's going to be able to go all over the denomination. So our department is bright, and we're going to continue to work hard. And we have to realize too that we have to mentor. We talk about young people. We have to be about mentorship now.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, and we're about to close, and I'm going to give you all one final word in case there was something that you forgot to share. But Dr. Woods, is that service of helping churches with 501c3, do you offer that as a service to churches?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's great. That is excellent.
Yes.
Perhaps other folks knew it. I did not know that, but that is a tremendous service that is offered. Wow, I'm glad to hear that. So, final word from each of you as we prepare to close. I'm glad Dr. Lewis is back. I told him we were going to be an hour. I kind of told a little blue lie. I knew we were going to be a little longer than an hour, but I didn't want to run him off. And then he dropped for a second. But I'm so glad you made it back, sir.
Not sure why.
Yeah, well, technology. Before I get to Dr. Woods, I would imagine that are you in contact with and have synergy with other meeting planners in the other denominations? I know the AME Church was scheduled to have a conference this year. They let bishops, they moved it to next summer. That may not happen. So I'm pretty sure you all talk amongst each other. Yeah, and among each other.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Dr. Davis, any final words? And you are retiring. Is that correct?
Yes, I will be retiring. And I'll be retiring to the point that I'll be spending full time doing all of my other activities that I've been called upon to do with Zion Cemetery, with our colleges, with my fraternity, all of that. But yes, my final words are, I didn't get to say that I've not been able to do this work of the church by myself. I certainly want to call the name of my wife, Janice, 30 to 32 years, has been supportive and has allowed me to be free to do what needs to be done. I have a daughter, Tyrena, who is now an ordained local elder in the church. She's working at Israel Metropolitan in D.C. Two stepdaughters, they're both in Kentucky. The younger of the two has a daughter, so I have a grand.
Oh, wow.
In closing, regarding my work, one of the things that people also do not know about our department is that we are tasked by the denomination to make sure that the church has directors and officers insurance, as well as the key person insurance. That we administer those programs on behalf of the denomination. So you don't see all that we do when you see just the General Board of Personnel Services.
Right.
But there's a great deal of work that gets done behind the scenes. I'm thankful for all the support we've gotten over the years, and I certainly want to say thanks to my chairman, Senior Bishop Lawrence Reddick, who was a witness in 1970 when I was ordained an elder at Mount Sterling, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
So that began our journey together. And who would know that today he would be my chairman and senior bishop of the church. So God works in mysterious ways to bring us together and keep us together.
That's great. Well, Dr. Davis, you have done a stellar job. If you go to the CME Church website, and if you link on under the Department of Personnel Service, you will see links from Dr. Davis, articles. He has written articles since his inception, and those links are available on the website, as well as additional information on aspects dealing with the church. So I put the website up. For those of you who've never been to the church's website, I would suggest you go under the general officers and click on their particular page, and you learn a lot about them, and also see some important links as to services that they provide and articles that they've shared. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you also on your pending retirement from this. A job well done. Dr. Lewis, you're not retiring, are you?
I hope not.
Okay, good. So that means that you will be seeking re-election at the 2022 conference. Your final words.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. And again, I guess the greatest word we can get out is that we are here and available to serve the church in many capacities. And if you feel like we can link up in any way with local churches and the various entities of our church, please feel free to give our office a call. I do need to give a shout out to my children who have been very supportive. My daughter called me while I was on, and she's on now. Allison D. Lewis, Roderick Darnell Lewis Jr., and my 6 wonderful grandchildren, Jaden, Sean, Grayson, Jalea, Alexis, and Mariah. I must also give a shout out to my staff, because they are the real ones who do hand to labor, who handle the issues and problems that arise every day, and to ensure that the work of the Department of Publications is done. Sister Ida Johnson, Sister Carrie Mitchell, Sister Carolyn Hassel, Sister Beverly Wilson, and Brother Sammy Bland. And I must shout out to my chair, Dr. Bishop Henry M. Williamson, who chairs the Department of Publications. Thank you for this opportunity. It has been wonderful, and we look forward to what else you will be doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. And we appreciate all the great work that you have done and continue to do. And we'll continue to share that with those who watch. Dr. Spraggan, are you retiring?
I am not retiring.
I'm just asking that question. You will be, I assume you're up for re-election as well in 2022.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Give us your final word in closing.
Well, since you opened with that one, I'm going to say I look forward to the support that the church will give in helping me to continue this work as editor of the Christian Index in 2022. Let me thank my department chair, Bishop Sylvester Williams, for the support and love that he gives to me and to this work, as well as to the members of Hines Memorial for allowing me and helping me to be editor that I am, as well as to my immediate family. I want to say thank you to my colleagues in this general officership for sharing the articles that you do share from month to month. And you help to make the index what it is, and help by doing that to allow me to fulfill a portion of the vision that God has given me for this work. And let me also say thank you to the members of the CME Church who submit your articles, and I look forward to receiving them in the future, that we again may hear from the local church and others how the Lord is blessing you and using you, and receive that inspiration. Thank you to all of the bishops I've served under, Bishop Gilmore, Bishop Hoyt, Bishop Reddick, Bishop Carter, Bishop Brown, Thomas Brown, Thank you so very much for the leadership that you have given. I appreciate you, and I continue to lift the CME Church and her members and leadership in prayer.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sprague. And Dr. Woods, you do get the final words before we say good afternoon or good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Skip Mason, for the opportunity to share this afternoon. It's been wonderful with my colleagues. I want to give a shout out first to my boss, Senior Bishop Reddick and First Lady Wendy, and to all the other College of Bishops, the Chairman of College, Bishop Carter, and to my special 4th District Bishop C. James King, and to all the members of the 4th Episcopal District, and the Gloucester-Hattiesburg District, which is my home district, and the Blackman Temple CME Church with Pastor Maxine Price, and to the Cooper's Chapel Church in Olive Branch, where I visit when I can't get to Blackman Temple. My voice to you and last words are, again, we're here for you if you need assistance. These are trying times. Remember to wear a mask, wash your hands, and remember to vote. And remember to stay steadfast and in this time that we're in, and we will make it through it.
Amen and amen. Thank you all so much for your time and for sharing. I appreciate it so much. And may God continue to bless the ministry that you all are doing in our church. And again, please stay safe as well. And I hope that you are inundated in a very positive way with calls about the services that you offer to our church. We are most appreciative. As it was mentioned, this is, and let me also emphasize too the fact that in addition to Good Trouble Tuesday, as you have seen scrolling, Bishop Thomas L. Brown Sr., who is a newly elected chairman-elect of Payne College, is calling a day of prayer, a call to prayer on Tuesday, October 27th, all-day prayer for Payne College as they seek accreditation with the TRACS Accrediting Association. And so the prayers of the righteous availeth much, and we will certainly be in prayer for our church. And again, Good Trouble on Tuesday as well. I am going to close out as I shared with our congregation as a part of our public service announcement. This is breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness. I'll close out with this small PSA. God bless you and thank you all again. And I look forward to seeing all of you, not this group, but my next show next Sunday at 5:00 p.m. Take care.
October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior that includes use of threats of violence and intimidation for the purpose of gaining power and control over another person. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increase in domestic violence incidents nationwide, with people having no choice but to spend more time at home. Gilbert was no exception. Calls for domestic violence have increased compared to this time last year. The reason for these calls are also different, with an increase in the intensity of crimes. Remember, domestic violence can happen to anyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, education level, religion, gender, or age. 40% of the incidents reported in Gilbert involved people between the ages of 26 and 37. Check in with your loved ones, even if you're unable to see them in person. If you think you are being abusive, or you or someone you know is being abused, call the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence at 1-800-799-7233 or text 741-741 to speak to a live crisis counselor. For more information regarding emergency helplines as well as non-emergency resources, please visit gilbertaz.gov/DVAM.